All right, let's dive into a bit of a medical puzzle called normal-tension glaucoma. Now, hearing any kind of diagnosis can be a little unsettling, right? But here's the bottom line from all our research. The one thing you absolutely need on your side is knowledge. With the right info, this is something you can really get a handle on. So let's get into it.
So let's just get right to the heart of it, shall we? Can your vision actually fail even when you're told you have perfect eye pressure? The answer, which is kind of surprising, is yes. And understanding why that is, well, that's the absolute key to protecting your sight.
Yeah, this quote really hits home. Your eye pressure can be normal and your vision can still quietly slip away. This is the whole paradox of normal tension glaucoma, or NTG. It's why that quick, routine pressure check can sometimes give you a false and, frankly, a dangerous sense of security.
So, first up, let's unmask this silent thief. We're going to break down what it is, how it actually works, and why it's so different from the kind of glaucoma you might have heard about before.
Okay, so what is it exactly? Well, NTG is glaucoma, which means the optic nerve is getting damaged. But, and this is the big but, it's happening even when your eye pressure is in that quote-unquote normal range of 10 to 21. That tells you right away that the pressure number just isn't the whole story here. The real problem is the health of the nerve itself.
I love this analogy. Imagine your optic nerve is like a high-tech fiber optic cable connecting your eye to your brain. Now with classic glaucoma, you've got high pressure that's literally crushing that cable from the outside in. But with NTG, the pressure is fine. Instead, that same cable is being damaged for other reasons. Maybe it's being starved by poor blood flow. It's two totally different paths leading to the same, pretty crummy destination.
Okay, so if it's so sneaky, how in the world do you find these invisible clues? Because NTG is so easy to miss until, real damage has already been done. Let's look at the subtle signs and the tools you actually need to catch it early.
Let me tell you this story. It's a perfect example. We've got a 67-year-old retired teacher. She's doing everything right, going to all her appointments. And for years, her eye doctor would tell her the same thing. Your pressure is perfect, a 15. We'll see you next year. So on paper, everything looked fantastic.
But she started noticing something a little weird. When she was driving at night, she was having a hard time seeing the white line on the right side of the road. And you know what she did? What most of us would do. She just brushed it off, thinking, it's just my old headlights. It was this super subtle real-world symptom that her brain was trying its best to cover up.
And then, everything changed. She saw a new doctor who ran a completely different kind of test, an OCT scan of her optic nerve. And that scan, it showed what the pressure check never could: years and years of hidden damage. The takeaway is so clear. The problem was there the whole time. The clinic just needed the right tools to find it.
And this is exactly why you have to know your own personal risk factors, especially once you're over 60. A family history of glaucoma, that's a big one. But so are things you'd never think to connect to your eyes, like having corneas that are naturally a bit thin, or having low blood pressure that dips way down while you're sleeping, or even other things like migraines or sleep apnea.
See, this is why a real, proper workup for NTG is so much more than that little puff of air test. It means getting a dilated exam so the doctor can get a good, direct look at the nerve. It means getting that OCT scan to measure the nerve fiber thickness. It means a visual field test to map out any blind spots you don't even know you have. And it means pachymetry to measure your cornea's thickness. It's a full-on investigation.
All right, so once you know what's going on, the next big question that pops into everyone's head is, okay, what's this going to cost me? So let's decode the Medicare side of this whole thing and turn that confusion into some confidence.
The first number to just kind of tuck away in your mind for 2025 is the annual Medicare Part B deductible. It's $257. Think of it as the amount you pay out of pocket for covered services just once a year before Medicare's big-time coverage really kicks in.
So, once you've paid that amount out of pocket for the year, what happens next? Well, for medically necessary diagnostic stuff like this, Original Medicare steps in and pays for 80% of the approved amount. That leaves you responsible for the other 20%. That 80-20 split is really the bedrock of Part B coverage.
Let's put some real-world numbers on this, just to see what that 20% might actually feel like. Now, these are just ballpark figures, but if a full workup like we talked about has a Medicare-approved amount of, say, $210, your share of that, your 20%, would be just $42. The big takeaway here is that a comprehensive, sight-saving visit often costs you tens of dollars, not hundreds or thousands.
Okay, let's pivot. We've talked diagnosis, we've talked cost. Now let's talk about your action plan, because a diagnosis is not the end of the story. It's really the beginning of a long-term strategy to protect the vision you have. The good news is the treatment toolkit here isn't super complicated. Even though your pressure is already normal, the goal is usually to lower it another 20 or 30%. That often starts with simple eye drops. Another really common option is a quick in-office laser procedure called SLT. And just as important is working with your primary care doctor to manage those other factors, like making sure your blood pressure isn't dipping too low overnight.
You know, when it comes to managing something long-term, it's all about building simple systems, not trying to rely on willpower. So tie your eye drops to something you already do every day, like brushing your teeth. It becomes automatic. Before you even leave the clinic, schedule your next appointment. And have an open conversation with your doctor about real-world stuff, like driving safety. These little habits are what make all the difference over time.
And look, the difference this makes is, well, it's night and day. The risk of losing more vision is so much higher if the condition is just left unmanaged. But with consistent treatment and checkups, you bring that risk way, way down. You have to remember, when you're managing a chronic disease, a visit where your doctor says, no change, that's a huge victory.
And that really brings us to the most important question of all. This condition, normal tension glaucoma, is silent. Your optic nerve can't raise its hand and tell you something's wrong. So the question we want to leave you with is this. Your optic nerve cannot speak for itself. What are you going to ask for on its behalf?